Shannon, you and I have argued about this all season long.
We have.
And I have maintained the very same stance that I took the day Terrell Owens retired. And I believe it more than ever. And I've heard your arguments, and I've heard Ray Lewis's arguments. And I have talked to Terrell face to face about this several times on live national TV. So I know his heart. This is not personal. This is business. This is Hall of Fame business to me. He does not belong in the Hall of Fame. And I despise this notion. I despise the notion that we hear that Hall of Fame voters punish a potential Hall of Famer. You know, it takes you, what, three times to get in, and Chris Carter 6 times. That's so wrong to me. You're either in the Hall of Fame or you're not in the Hall of Fame. I've told you from the start. This is just me, my 2 cents. I'm not in the Hall of Fame. I don't have a vote, but this is how I view my Hall of Fame. My test is, if I have to think twice about you, you're not in my Hall of Fame. I mean, Tom Brady, Hall of Famer. Did you have to think twice about it? And if we go back in the recent past, Deion Sanders, Hall of Famer. Right. I don't have to. Emmitt Smith, Hall of Famer. Jerry Rice, Hall of Famer. Michael Irvin, Hall of Famer. Bam! Like there's no doubt about it. There's no second guessing of it.
But you know they do punish, because that's why Charles Haley had to wait
Charles
15
Haley?
years
Are you
with 5
kidding
Super
me?
Bowls.
Well, and I said this from the start. Charles Haley was in my Hall of Fame, and I had nothing but battles with him when I covered the Dallas Cowboys back in the 90s. I don't really like Charles off the field. He was all over me half the time, but I loved him as a player, so there's no personal going on there. He was in his 5 Super Bowl rings. He's in the Hall of Fame. He was a game-changing pass rusher.
Dominant force on all those teams.
On the 49ers and the Cowboys.
Yes.
You stop it. So I don't want to hear that. And it offends me that they try to punish these players. Now back to Terrell. And I feel like I don't want to beat this to a pulp, because I feel like every time we bring this up, I have to reiterate, Terrell Owens tore apart 3 teams. And I covered the first one, the San Francisco 49ers. He verbally attacked his head coach, Mariucci, and then the coordinator, and then he even threw the quarterback who threw it to him and threw a lot of sweet balls to him, Jeff Garcia, completely under that bus. Then he goes to Philly for his fresh start and quickly turns on his soulmate and roommate in the first training camp, Donovan McNabb. And then he turns on the head coach that really loved him and wanted him, Andy Reid. And then he got into it with his coordinator, Childress. And then all of a sudden, they throw him out. They send him home. Remember in Philadelphia? You're out of here. And then a Hall of Fame coach in Dallas says, I don't want any part of this guy. And Jerry Jones says, yes, we do, because he's box office. And I don't have any. Terrell was big. I loved watching him play.
Get your popcorn
the antics,
ready.
Get your popcorn ready. Pom-poms. I get all that. It was fun to watch him play. But he was the most divisive locker room force in the history of football in my eyes. So he goes to Dallas and obviously immediately rebels against Parcells. Then he has a big issue, an incident with his receivers coach, Todd Haley, which led to a near fight with the man who was sitting over here at the top of the show, Jason Witten. They went nose to nose on the practice field over the whole concept. Terrell's saying Romo's throwing it more to Witten than to Terrell. Well, look, Terrell's had some emotional issues that he's struggled with off the field. Sometimes they get the best of him. And in the end, I feel like he hurt those teams more than he helped. 3 really good teams. All 3 had a chance to get to this game. And so in the end, when I back off and look at it in perspective, this is just my 2 cents. He wouldn't be in my Hall of Fame because the numbers lie. They don't tell the complete story. You can throw all the numbers, and they're sensational, but they don't give you the complete picture of what a divisive force he was in those locker rooms. About half the locker room loved him, and half didn't want him on the football team. So in the end, that impacted the ability of those 3 teams to win football games, not in my Hall of Fame. And you know what? I get it. I think Terrell has a lot of fans. In fact, I think I've actually helped you in a lot of ways. I've turned him into something more of a sympathetic figure. But go ahead.
Skip, I will speak for T.O. because I don't think he needs to make the argument for himself anymore. His numbers should speak for themselves. 1,078 catches, that's top 10 all time. 15,934, that's second all time.
Yep.
153 receiving touchdowns, that's third all time. Skip, the Hall of Fame is about accomplishments. When they put on his plaque, they're going to say he played for the San Francisco 49ers this many years. He played with the Eagles this many. Dallas, Buffalo, none of his transgressions will be on that plaque. Now, if he was going for sainthood, T.O. got no chance. But that's not what this is about. This is about the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Skip, I think there's like 170 living members in the Pro Football Hall of Fame out of 320. I haven't talked to all of them, but the guys that I've talked to believe that Terrell Owens is a Hall of Famer because you can't, Skip, he's a 5-time first-team All-Pro on 3 different teams. There have only been 3 other guys that can say that in the history, 97-year history. They've been playing football for 97 years. Only 3 guys can say, I've been an All-Pro on 3 different teams. One of them you mentioned, Deion Sanders. He's in the Hall of Fame. The other is Ted Hendricks. He's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's led 5 different teams in receiving. You keep telling me he tore apart a lot of different teams. When T.O. left, how good was San Francisco?
Well, I can tell you what the GM would say, because I was really close. Terry Donahue said he wrecked our franchise and just left us for dead, basically.
No, I think Terry Donahue with the terrible picks left that franchise for dead. Okay, the Eagles. When T.O. left, how did they do after T.O. left?
Well, I can tell you this.
I want you to tell me how they were.
They made it to the Super Bowl. They won 2 games with no Terrell Owens. That's how they made it to that Super Bowl.
Oh, you know what? I had a feeling you might say that, but do you know that T.O. was an All-Pro that year? After missing 3 games, the final 3 games, he was still a first-team All-Pro.
Okay, how did they get to the Super Bowl without him? Maybe they were a little better without him.
The man had 15 touchdowns in 12 games. That helped get to the Super Bowl. Super Bowl, the dude had 9 for $122 playing with a broken ankle 6 weeks earlier.
So he rushed back to the Super Bowl
and gave him the business.
He did not. Who won that game?
The Patriots won.
Yeah, they did. And you know why they won it? Because I've had 3 different Eagles who played on that team, and you know who they are, but I can't call their names.
Yes.
Tell me that they felt like Terrell rushed back, forced himself back into the lineup, and that Donovan got too T.O. conscious in the game because he could not run on that bad, whatever it was, ankle.
9 for 122, what was he doing? He's in a wheelchair?
The Patriots saying, here, you can have that, you can have that. And he caught how many touchdown passes?
He caught none.
Game? Caught none. Thank you very much.
Skip, think about this. You know what? I knew Skip was going to go here, so I already built my argument to get him. On that field with Terrell Owens that day was Freddie Mitchell. I said if I had Freddie Mitchell's hands, I would cut mine off, and the only thing I could eat is donuts. After that Super Bowl game, Freddie Mitchell never played another game. Also on the Eagles staff was Todd Pinkston.
I know him.
After that game, he never played another down. Also on that field was Greg Lewis. Greg Lewis, in his 9-year career, had 1 season in which he caught 25 balls or more.
And who caught the touchdown pass to get Philly back in the Super Bowl against New England? Greg Lewis caught it. Not Terrell Owens, little Greg Lewis from nowhere.
The dude played 9 years and 1 season only, had more than 25 catches. Think about it, Skip. I believe I can go out there right now and get 15.
And guess what? You might be able to. Guess what? Donovan McNabb got that team with those receivers all the way to the Super Bowl with no Terrell Owens.
Skip, the man had 15 touchdowns. He was an All-Pro. But see, here's the problem that I have. Everybody, all these reporters, not all, but a lot of these guys vote for the All-Pro team. Although T.O. was doing all these antics, they still thought T.O. was the best receiver in football because they voted him All-Pro. Now they can provide him with the ultimate validation. He can do no more catching because if you didn't love his 1,078, 15,153, if you didn't love it last year, how does it look better this year? I told him, after I didn't get in the first time, I said, if you don't like 10,000 yards, 60-plus touchdowns, 815 catches, I can't go back out there and add to that total.
And by the way, you should have been on the first ballot.
And so when you look at it, Skip, you look at what T.O. has done. I don't care nothing about those antics because in the bylaws, they say you're not supposed to do that because they look at, I'm saying, hold on, wait a minute. Brett Favre held the Packers hostage for 4 years. But they applauded him for that. Brett Favre had some indiscretions off the field about the sideline lady with the Jets. But don't nobody mention that because you know what? You know why? See, this is what I've learned. When we like somebody, we will build the case for them no matter what. But when we don't, oh man, he tore locker rooms apart. If T.O. was allowed to tear the locker room apart, it tells me the locker room was weak to begin with. Because there was not a locker room. I played 14 years in 2 different locker rooms. And there's not a locker room, nobody can tell you in Denver or Baltimore was the locker room ever torn apart by nobody. And we had a lot of different personalities.
Okay, but you were a team leader. Terrell Owens was a team obliterator. That's what I called it.
So
T.O.
they didn't have no team leaders in San Francisco?
No.
So what was Donovan?
Listen, Terrell Owens was a force of nature in a locker room. It split it apart because he was so polarizing. Half the locker room one way, half the other way. When I first wrote about him in my days in San Francisco, early days with the 49ers when he was there, I was the biggest T.O. supporter in print, in public. And I had one player after another pull me aside and said, "What are you thinking? You have no idea what's going on in here because we're not going to be able to win with this guy." And that opened my eyes, and I started to see the truth about him. Terrell was a model citizen off the field. He has no transgression, no law breaking.
No.
He had code breaking in the locker room. And to me, that impacted the football. Like you say, Brett Favre, I don't care what Brett did off the field because after he held the team hostage, he came back and had his best year ever at age 39 and took the Vikings to the Super Bowl. Remember that? I mean, to the championship game.
But Skip, he's holding. So that plays no part in it. The Packers really couldn't go on because is Brett going to retire? Is Brett going to play? Is he going to show up in training camp? I mean, what's going on here?
He showed up on August 1st. He's a veteran player. You didn't like training camp.
I love training camp.
You did not.
I did too.
Not at the end, you didn't.
No, Skip, I didn't have a problem because I understand that's part of it. It's like dealing with the media is a part of my job if I play in the National Football League. Training camp is a part of my job. Now, I got tired of the meetings during the regular season because I'd heard it so much. But I love training camp. And by the way, after T.O. left the Cowboys, how did they do? So, hold on.
Wait a second. Let me ask a better question. With T.O., how did they do with the #1 seed playing at home? They lost.
Oh, like this year. They did the same thing this year.
Brought to you by 84 Lumber. Are you 84 material?